Thanks for joining today's webinar. We'll be starting here in about 4 minutes. Thanks. Thanks for joining today's webinar. We'll be starting here in about 2 minutes. Thanks for joining today's webinar. We'll be starting here in 2 minutes, I think, if you guys can hear me. Carlo, can you hear me? All right, I think we can start. Carlo's having a couple technical difficulties, but all right. Hello and welcome to the VEST webinar series. I'm Frank Newsom, your moderator for today's webinar session. Today we are broadcasting live from the IFPE 2023. We'll be showing some integration with NetSkeme Hydraulic today. This session is scheduled to last 30 minutes and is being recorded. You'll be able to submit questions or comments at any time by posting in the questions section located within your webinar control panel. Questions may be answered as they're posted, or we will try to address them in the last portion of the webinar. You may also choose to submit your question in the survey issued at the conclusion of today's webinar. Now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's webinar session, Carlo Malone. Carlo has worked in the hydraulics industry for many years and currently manages application sales and training for VEST desktop and cloud products. Carlo?
Thank you, Frank, and sorry for the inconvenience. I had a problem with my audio speakers. So today we speak about integration between HyDraw CAD and other application made by VEST and not by VEST. So we use, as I have been explaining also 2 days ago, NetSkeme is basically a cloud application based on DWG standard. DWG means that it will be compatible with our HyDraw CAD and also with AutoCAD. The engine of NetSkeme is called WebCAD, which was initially developed by Vest and adopted by Sun Hydraulics in Smart Design and Quick Connect. The same technology is now being used by on OEM-driven specific application by Danfoss. It's called EasyManifold 3D. By Valvoil in the form of a wide configurator, by Delta Power, it's called XManifold, and by HIDAC, called EID. We have a demo environment here, so I'll show you a bit of integration between our platform, which are cloud and also desktop. So since our journey in the cloud for diagrams started with this WebCAD, I like to start from a small diagram made online in a branded system, which now is Vest branded system. And if you in the audience are a Danfoss distributor or HIDAC or any of the previously mentioned companies, you will notice familiarity on what I'm showing here. Let me just delete some components and I'll add some stuff. So this framework is very similar to NetSkeme, but in this case it's OEM driven. In this demo version, we use a lot of different manufacturers. So let me just look for a HyDraw RV1020 relief valve, or you can go even by a symbol RV10. So you more generic search RV1026. I just drag and drop a pilot operated relief valve. Our technology in the cloud, this is not used in NetSkeme, but on OEM-driven application, we can also have a configurator for model codes. And here I'm showing how to configure a HyDraw valve, selecting the adjustment type and the seal type, and also the spring setting. In this OEM-driven application, we have also the possibility to display lead time, list price, and so on. Please remember, this is only a demonstration of our technology, and those are not data that are realistic for some components, for HyDraw component. In WebCAD, like we do in NetSkeme, we can make connection lines. So let me just do connection, but I'll exit from this environment. Simply, my intent is to show you that if you are a user of one of these OEM-driven application, still you will have benefit of integration. And this webinar is mainly focused on integration between the software and libraries, and we'll see later. So if you use one of these applications, you will be able to download a DWG file. And now this DWG file, I will download on my desktop. Let me go to my webinar 3, and that's my integration webinar. And of course, in this OEM driven, you may have also part list, port list, and other stuff. Let me close this for a moment. And now we focus on today's webinar, which is NetSkeme. Like I said 2 days ago, NetSkeme is a cloud-based application, retail, so it's not OEM driven. This is an application where you can just subscribe with your user and buy a subscription for 1 month or 1 year. NetSkeme, when you start, you will be able to start from a blank page, or you can open existing diagram. So in this case, instead of starting from blank, I'll open that diagram that I have just downloaded from the demo environment, which was integration webinar. Anything we make with this engine called WebCAD is basically reusable into our NetSkeme. So let me change the title block, and I insert my title block, the NetSkeme 1. I also delete the part list. We will be able to do the part list later. I can just move my diagrams here, and being in a NetSkeme environment, I will be able to complement with additional items that are not in those OEM driven environments. So I can take a pump symbol, and I can move my pump where I want. Of course, like I did 2 days ago, I can go and find the power unit components like a coupling set and electric motor. I can describe my reservoir, and you can add properties to that. That's a reservoir. And we can make connection lines. NetSkeme comes with a huge library of components. So let me put the counterbalance valves, CBCH, from Sun Hydraulics, and I double click and place the symbol in the drawing. Like I showed 2 days ago, it is possible to view a datasheet. And in case of Sun, we directly go straight to Sun website for datasheet. We have a smart commands like a flip and move, and we can stretch the envelope. And we can just drag the connection line and reroute the connection line very efficiently. Let me make a pilot line. And you can change also connection type. Now, we assume that this diagram is just a draft, and let me just copy a couple of ports. And we need to share with our customer, and the customer has AutoCAD instead of HyDraw or NetSkeme. So what we can do without losing any information of what we did, we will be able just to save our file into DWG again. And now that's integration webinar file 1. And I go to AutoCAD. So what we do, we are making a diagram in a DWG format. So when I open it in AutoCAD, I will be able to open my integration webinar. And this is how the diagram will look like. Assuming our customer wants to integrate a bit with some of his geometry, let's say that he wants to represent a boom. So he will draw something with AutoCAD. Maybe he wants to put a cylinder somewhere here. And he may have a library of already pre-designed symbols, or let me just mimic a symbol. And maybe we are rotating this a bit. So let's say that our customer is willing to put some geometries, and maybe it's just communicating to us that he must connect this side of the cylinder with the other side. And maybe there will be another connection line somewhere there. So he's trying to communicate with us with the same kind of diagram. So what he does is working exactly on the same document in DWG format. I'm not going to work anymore in AutoCAD now. I'm just saving again this drawing. Like I said, we have also a desktop software for making hydraulic diagrams called HyDraw CAD. So now let's try to open this in HyDraw CAD. My intent here is to show that really you can have a different approach into hydraulic design. We can start from OEM-driven application, go to a retail cloud application, use AutoCAD, go for the desktop software HydroCAD, always DWG based. And here we can do some work. So we notice that the drawing is not well made. We can just maybe convert the cylinder on the fly. So we make an hydraulic cylinder because we may want this cylinder to be on our part list. And let me delete this and also this one. Enter. And this is the insertion point, and convert. So now I have made my cylinder being part of my diagram. It's item 6. And for instance, the cylinder will have some information. So the bore is maybe 350 millimeter, the stroke is 700, and the rod is 200 millimeter. And we can move this. Now we can connect this cylinder properly to ports A1 and B2 and maybe add another cylinder. So HydroCAD comes with a huge library of symbols and components. So I will do the connection later in NetSkeme, but I show some possibility that you have in HyDraw in a good library. First, let me add in HyDraw some symbol port to the cylinder. So one port is called C1, and it's here. And the other port is called C2. The other port is C2, on here. And of course, we could do connection lines from there. So we can make a connection line from A1 to C1, and also a connection line from B1 to C, and delete the rest of the lines. Now, HydroCAD has a different approach. So we can create subsystems in Hydro, or we can look for components. So let me take a subsystem. So I really try to show you a really mixed approach to hydraulic design. So I have already preset power units elements. So let me take this one. So I get rid of all the stuff. So assuming that we had a sales guy drawing in that cloud OEM environment, moving to our sales team, he did some change in NetSkeme. He went to the customer integrated, and now it comes to my design engineer that wants really to put together the power unit. So it can take a subsystem already created, and now the subsystem is made with a reservoir, with a motor, pump, and so on. And of course, it can integrate. Maybe realize that we need another counterbalance valve. As you can see, when I select the counterbalance, this valve was coming from NetSkeme. I can see all the attributes in the HydroCAD diagram. Let me just copy another one and flip it. And I just place my symbol on top of the connection line. Let me use some snap, so I use the nearest. So now the connection line will be broken in 2 pieces, and I can move my symbol on the right, and I can make the rest of the pilot lines. And later we'll see how easy it is then to fix also cosmetically this diagram. We can just do also the connection from the other ports. So now what we are doing is basically we are completing our diagram in HydroCAD, but let's get back to NetSkeme shortly. So we found that a large organization may have really different need. Some salespeople may love the cloud software, other may be more oriented to use desktop software because it brings a different level of productivity and functionality. So one missing aspect was the ability really to share the same HydroCAD library between NetSkeme and HydroCAD. I speak about HydroCAD library, and here I'm showing my database. I have the ability to look for my components. So in my database, I can search for Bosch Retro 4W6J, and I can find a complete model code with a dedicated part number. And this is in my library. So what we have seen earlier was looking in the online database and finding a generic Sun Hydraulic CBCH, but CBCH usually is that requires a different complete molecule, CBCH LAN, and the part number is maybe. So when we speak about Hydro library, it means that the Hydro user have really the ability to find symbols on the online database or manually, type in preferred part numbers, and save into the local database. So when they do that, this symbol is now easy to find. So now we can look for directly CBCH LAN, and now this component will find with a symbol and model data and the part number as well, which is important because an organization, maybe a distributed organization, wants to make a part that is consistent across all the different locations and with the same library. So we are trying to fill the gap between the desktop and the cloud software. And well, let me just copy the same because later I'll make a part list for this. So I make this identical, same part number and the same model code. Let me get rid of this and I save again. So that's the third step. We started QuickManifolds, that OEM environment. We went to NetSkeme. We downloaded into AutoCAD. We made modification in Hydro, and now we get back to NetSkeme. But I show you a different version of NetSkeme. This is something that is coming shortly as an enterprise version. this FA.NetSkeme is what we call functional acceptance. This is an internal system environment that we use to test the application before release. So I will do a hydraulic application. Okay, now it's loading. So we found that during the webinar some slowness on the cloud product, but it's due to the connection here. So I want to open in this FA the same diagram that I've been working so far. So browse and take the same integration webinar one. Now it's exactly where we had left. So now we can work with NetSkeme. So this will behave slightly slower compared to what we have in production. It's on a different server, but it will work reasonably well. So as you can see, we have ability to maybe fix some cosmetic issue. NetSkeme is very user friendly. So even if you don't have a CAD background, you really can just select the stretch entities. You move symbol just with the arrow key, and you can reroute connection just by simply grabbing the insertion point and reroute the connection. All the jumper dot will follow easily. Like I said, in NetSkeme, we have the online database, which is the Fluid Power Tools database. So for instance, we need a reducing valve. I'll take a PR1032, HyDraw force, opening a datasheet. And I can just place my reducing valve anywhere in the drawing. Yes, I'll do that probably later. That's the next. Let me try again, but okay, that's why it's called FA. But I want to show you for something else here. As you can see, this is what we expect to have in NetSkeme Enterprise somewhere in the coming months. So we will have the ability to look in my corporate library. So you should think of an environment where some user have a local dedicated HyDraw CAD library, and the same library can be shared online in NetSkeme. So basically here we can search for a component, for a symbol, place a symbol, and maybe we need a check valve. Let me refresh. Maybe there is an issue with the FA system. Let me do again, otherwise I switch to the NetSkeme production system. No, it's not working. So let me try on a blank drawing, but you understand then we'll open the same into NetSkeme production. Don't save. Let me open. I just test now on a blank drawing if insertion from a local library is working fine. Yes, now this is fine. I can select from my library, and I can search into my corporate database. And as you can see, in this case, I'm finding several part numbers belonging to my database, to my HyDraw CAD database. So I can select one and click OK. And now this information for this symbol are coming not anymore from the online database Fluid Power Tools, but from a local library that is uploaded on the cloud. At the same time, if you don't find what you need into the local database, you can go to the Fluid Power Tools and look for additional items like I did earlier, CBCH, and so on, PR1032, and drag and drop symbols and work. Since I always like to try to finish a diagram that makes sense, let me jump back to NetSkeme Canvas and open that drawing. And I'm going to show you some more functionality that are available in NetSkeme, which I did not cover into during the last webinar. So we are here. Now let me get rid of these lines. I will go into the database and look for a cylinder, double acting, and place my symbol in the drawing. Now still there is some problem in this drawing. Let me let me take a different version of the same file. So I try to complete here. So I place my reducing valve. I'll connect my reducing valve with tank line and pressure line. I copy my symbol here and connect. We can move symbol just with the arrow keys. In NetSkeme, we have also the ability to configure sectional valves. So assuming that we need on our system a mobile valve, we have a sectional valve configurator. So we can call it by using the insert sectional valve configurator. At present, we support the following manufacturer. So let's say that we need to configure a Danfoss PVG32 item with 4 station with compensator, and the spool control will be hydraulic, anti-shock, and we configure. This is only a symbol configurator. It's not retrieving all the part numbers. This is only an effort that we made to help our customer in NetSkeme being able to draw this complex diagram. It is possible to edit each section, so you can select a section and click edit and select a different spool, maybe a motor spool or a cylinder spool. You can change the valves and also define settings for the valve, anti-shock and anti-cavitation valves, confirm a cross section, and copy from one item to other so that the same section is applied to the other with the same setting. And you can also edit the outlet section, maybe adding additional elements according to your needs. So now I'm just not taking care too much about the consistency of this diagram. You can confirm, save the configuration, and use the diagram into use the sectional valve into your diagram. If you find it too large, this is made according to ISO standards, so all the size are exactly those for ISO standards, and we can just scale it up or down. So I see a question from a user. So and yes, if you have, feel free to post. So the question is, if I have an HyDraw version from 2021, will it also be fully compatible with NetSkeme, or are there restrictions? So no, it is compatible also with the 2021. I should have one. Let me show you. Let me download the DWG here and save it as 2021. And let me open a HyDraw CAD 2021. And if you have other questions, just feel free to post. While it's opening, I just add my title block. I can move all the entire diagram on a different location. I can connect maybe I use a dual pump system. Okay, now HyDraw CAD is going. Let me go to a dual pump system. And connect one pump to the left manifold, another pump to the inlet of the sectional valve. We can reassign item IDs. We can specify also item numbers for the sectional valve. Let's call it sectional valve assembly. And we can create the part list, which is on the top right. And let me get back to HyDraw 2021 so we can open. Let me get to that folder. It's on data 23, IFPE, webinar 03, and the file is 2021. So as far as DWG concerned, we use the DWG 2018 version, which is the latest from Autodesk. So the compatibility is there also with older version of HydroCAD. And all the attributes are visible also in HydroCAD 2021 if you have not yet upgraded to 2022. So that's to answer straight to that question. In case you have older AutoCAD, remember that from NetSkeme you can download older version of DWG. Still, I find every now and then customer that do use old AutoCAD version. So having the ability to save into 2013, 2010 is a plus. If you have CAD application that struggle with opening the DWG file, possibly the XF may be a good idea. So we also have export to the XF. It is possible to save as PDF, and so in this case you can share the drawing with your customer or colleagues into a non-editable format. We are running a bit out of time, so I don't see any other question arising. I thank you for the attention, and I turn it over to Frank.
All righty, thank you, Carlo. We hope everybody found this to be a compelling webinar showing our integration between our schematic drawing softwares. And so we urge you to navigate to netskeme.com to get a 30-day free trial. Tomorrow you will receive an email link containing a link to view a replay of today's session. Feel free to share this link with your colleagues. A link to view video segments from prior webinars will also be provided in that email. We also have the webinar series posted on various social media channels. We invite you to follow these channels so that you can receive the latest updates on our upcoming webinars. Our next webinar is scheduled to occur tomorrow, Friday, March 17th, where interoperability between our online manifold design application, NetBlock 3D, and other best manifold design platforms, including MD tools, will be showcased. Thanks again, Carlo, and thanks to everybody for attending today's session. Have a pleasant and safe day.